Okay, hello, hello. We're trying it again. We're talking culinary passion meets hospital food policy and just nutrition with Dr. Angie. So we're gonna call in Laura and Dr. Angie again. Unfortunately, Instagram, there's always ups and downs with Instagram. So hopefully I can get you guys in at the same time. Hello, hello, Dr. Angie. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Sometimes you never know how it's gonna go with these things. So I'm going to bring you both in at the same time. Send request. Fingers crossed this works because we have an important conversation today. Yay!
Yay! Okay, it worked. Good.
I know, sorry. Instagram, it's
Technology.
glitchy sometimes with the live, especially when you're doing more than one person.
This is fun. This is the first time I've ever done more than one person, so this is
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Hey!
Nice to meet you. This is Laura.
Hi.
She's over there in Madrid.
It's nighttime there. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you guys. Thank you guys for having me. This is fantastic. Thank you for finding me and being along this journey. Sometimes, you put things out there on Instagram and you don't know if people are going to be listening or you don't know who's listening. And I just find that I think social media has definitely connected like-minded people,
Oh, yeah.
which is why I'm here.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us. So I know you have a hard stop time. You only have 30 minutes with us, so we'll try to ask you everything and just dive in with you quickly so we
Sounds
can just
good.
learn all about your amazing work because it's important work what you're doing. Just really re-educating people on food, and food is really truly medicine.
It's about time. It's about time.
Yes.
I feel like we sometimes forget that piece. That's like such an important piece to what we do 3 times a day, and we just forget about it. And as clinicians, I felt like there was always this missing part, this missing link that doctors just didn't talk about it. But it was something that I always wanted to incorporate from the very beginning. I grew up in a home that was um, very much, food as medicine. As a Latina, my grandma would go and grab herbs from the garden to make my tummy feel
Mm.
better. Most people grow up that way, and then they forget, that they can go back to some of those roots. And my mom grew up on a farm, so it was ingrained in us. But what happened with my family is that my grandfather ended up in the hospital. He had diabetes, and back then you don't go to the doctor until it's really bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Mm-hmm.
just don't go until you're basically on insulin. So back in the day, my mom was the only one who can speak English and can understand what the dietitian was telling her. And so, she took it upon herself to read more about how can she improve the family's health by improving it with food. That's what she could control.
Yeah.
So she started on her journey, and then I just got to benefit from it just by being her daughter. So I always tell people that to me, it's like I learned food as medicine as much as I learned English, Spanish. Like it's just a part of me. I don't think anything differently. It doesn't take me that long to think about things. I can write a prescription as easy as I can write a recipe for a patient.
Wow.
So, so I knew that when I graduated college and I looked around, and I mean, this is in the 1980s when like fast
Mm-hmm.
food's popping up everywhere. We have
Mm-hmm.
Pop Tarts and TV dinners for breakfast and dinner, and I just didn't grow up with that. So when I graduated college, I knew that I was kind of like in this unicorn world where not everybody was like me, and so and even my colleagues. I mean, I can tell you a lot of my colleagues did not grow up this way either. So it's just sort of a little bit that I bring to medicine that makes me a little bit unique. And so now I'm teaching and empowering doctors in my medical
Oh,
group
cool.
and in my hospital system to try to dive into that because that's really where it's at. I think that's the best kind of medicine we can provide as well, is to not forget about that.
Yeah.
Prescription pad is one thing, but also what other things can we offer?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I mean, I love that you said, you learned that food is medicine just as much as like you were learning like language, that it's
Yeah.
like it was really a part of who you are and so you're Latino. Where is your family from and like what culture do you think that you tap into for some of your rituals or wellness?
Yeah. So my parents, my mom was 12 or 11 or 12 when she immigrated. I was born in Chicago, but we grew up on the border. So I'm from El Paso,
Oh,
and
nice.
we had family in Mexico. We owned a farm, and so we'd go back and forth. And so we had those ties. So yes, I'm Mexican American, but I have a lot of my childhood is all about like flavors of Mexican food. So to me, it's just such a, it's love. You know, in our culture, we grow up where food is love. Like you show someone you love by bringing a dish, by getting together, by getting the family together. So to me, it's like a love language that was very easy. And I remember always saying to my colleagues, if I could only invite my patients into my home and invite them over for dinner, we could have a fantastic conversation and I can show them what I make and how delicious it can be. Because I think a lot of people think of food and healthy food being boring and bland, and that was never the case in my household. So I wanted to show them what I was doing, you know. So right before COVID, I was actually cooking with patients in the office.
Wow, amazing.
And
So, and you had your own like kitchen there, or what did you?
no,
What was
I
the
mean,
setup?
that's the beauty of teaching this, is that you don't need a fancy kitchen. You just need a knife, a cutting board, some vegetables, and a good time, and everyone to play a part in it. It was a conference room. There was a conference room, and
Amazing.
you know, we just had a bathroom nearby. People would wash their hands, they'd come back in, and it was just discussion, and it was community, and it was great. And that was teaching people you don't need a fancy kitchen. You can do it on a table. You can do it with your, you know, bring your kids in. It doesn't have to be fancy in order to be healthy and nutritious and delicious.
That's inspiring.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically what I've been working on. And then now I'm kind of working at more of, you know, it's a cultural change, because I think that in medicine we don't look at the sort of the basics of what we do every day, which is what we put in our body. How do we nourish ourselves, our minds, our bodies, our spirits? You know, what are we doing? Why are we how are we connecting as well? And so now it's sort of putting all those pieces together in everything that I like, which is, you know, the hospital system, where I have such awe of this science, and I'm so amazed at constantly like how medicine has evolved and improved. And then I have, you know, some of the ancient wisdoms that I also have, I'm in awe of as well. So there's a little bit of some Eastern medicine that I want to marry together. And then obviously my passion for climate health. I feel like it's such a role. It shouldn't be called climate health. It should just be called human health, because at some point it's going to impact, and it probably is already, if everybody just took a little bit of some time to realize, how are you being impacted by climate health? Everyone is. Yes. Everyone will be at some point or another. If it's not you, it's your family, it's your generations, it's your kids. So I'm really, really passionate about that.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, so you it ties together, because mostly what you recommend for your patients are like whole food, plant-based foods. Is that mostly like what you recommend when you're working with patients?
I mean, everybody can move. So there's no diet book. I mean, and I will say, you go to any bookstore, library, magazine, websites on any kind of diet. If there's anything that any of those diets all can agree on, it's eating more plants. Bottom line, that's it, full stop, right? So that's basically it, just eating more plants. So even if you're eating, you know, carnitas, and you're eating like fajitas, and you're eating, you know, your diet is rich in meat, okay, let's start adding more plants to that, and you're going to improve your health. And then maybe in like 6 months you could do one meal, no meat, just lots of veggies. And then maybe in a year you're eating 2 meals. Maybe it's 2 days. Maybe it's now one week where you don't even think, when was the last time I had meat, you know? And it's slowly evolving so that generations, you make this change. It's not black or white. To me, there's no list of bad foods. There's no list of good foods. It's just a pattern of your whole life and how much you eat of each.
Got it. Yeah, Liz always inspired me by, you know, she always says, go when you're, you know, you're doing your dish, like, or designing the dish you're making for the night, just go be plant-based heavy and think of the meat or protein or whatever last. So
yeah, it's like a highlight. The highlight shouldn't be just, you know, meat, basically. Is my light off? I feel like my light is off. It's very...
No.
Is it good? You guys?
Yeah, no, I think you look good.
Good. So yeah, it's like making vegetables and plants the star of the dish, and playing around. It can be so playful with the different spices and aromatics that you can put in there, ginger and garlic and onions, and just make it so delicious. And then you're like, oh yeah, the protein, you know, we could have beans, we could have a little nuts, and then for flavoring, we can have a little meat if you want it. But it's sort of that choice that you make, and it's like an afterthought. But the main highlight and the star of your meals should be, what are my plants going to be today? You know, what colorful veggies and seasonal veggies can I get? And that's what my patients have told me. Like, that becomes their new normal, but it takes a while, right?
Yeah.
It's a transition, and so. Yeah, I have some patients, it's especially if they're older and they grew up not with a lot of veggies in their house, or plants in general. Maybe their parents weren't cooking. It takes them a little while to get to that point where they're doing it on their own. They're having to relearn it. And one of my biggest passions is we need to put it in schools, just like, you know, kids learn math, art, science, throw in nutrition in there. That should just be a standard, so that our health improves, and so that the next generation doesn't have these chronic illnesses that we constantly have.
Yes, yes. So tell us, what are you working on within like the hospital food policy with your current position?
Yeah, so I just got asked by the hospital system. They found out that I was trying to change the menu for what doctors eat at our meetings. We have like 700 doctors at our medical group, and 3 years ago I was like, you know, as doctors, we probably could model what we eat at least once a month. Can we, you know, just come together and make more delicious food? And I'll save them money by, you know, you are naturally, when you eat more plants, you're saving money. And so I started off this journey of just going down that, like, figuring out how to do that. Well, the hospital found out about me. And so then they were like, well, you know, could you do this for patients? How could you help advocate it? And so right now I'm working on, as you know, it's a culture. You have to change how people feel about this. And so you have to start at every level, whether it's staff, it's hospital employees, it's nurses, it's the doctors. So I'm working on educating the doctors. I'm working on, the next step is hospital employees and nurses, because it has to be a cultural shift in order to have patients who buy into it. They have to really believe that the care they're giving is actually coming from a place of like a healing. It really does. If, you know, you have to model it. If you really, people know when you go to the doctor's office whether they're being, like, that's why they're skeptical, right? If you don't live it yourself and you don't change that yourself, people are going to notice that, and they're going to see that. So again, it's alongside, it's patients, but it's also the culture and the employees.
Yeah. And so are you also working to change, like the options that are given to patients, like that have had surgeries and things like that? Because I've always found that, you know, whenever I visit people at the hospital, like the food options are so terrible, unhealthy. And so
I know
unhealthy.
there's some hospital systems that still have fast foods attached to them, you know, like what messages. And to me, everything is about messages, and what messages are we sending to patients? We need to send them better messages. So yes, I'm working. We have a fantastic chef with a registered dietitians who've actually worked on this program menu to develop very plant forward, and it still has meat, but again, very plant forward, that has bioactive compounds in there for promoting healing and good gut health. And they've been working on this menu, and then they launched it to employees first in the cafeteria. And then they had some trouble launching it to patients. And right now we're at that patient level. They've launched it in 4 different hospitals, which is good. But we have some hospitals who are choosing it, some patients who are choosing it more than others. And so my job is to help amplify that. Where can we choose that? That should be the standard. The standard should be that plant forward, where patients come in and then they don't see it as a foreign. They see it as, oh my God, this is so delicious. How can I make this at home? And then they're given a recipe, and then they're given more instructions on how to improve their health beyond the medicine, beyond the hospitalization. Because I think a lot of times there's right now, at least, what I'm trying to take away is all those restrictions. I think when patients go into the hospital and their doctor gives them a special diet, then they go home and they're fearing food. I can't eat this. I can't eat this. What can you eat? And so what is in your control? So I'm working at promoting the opposite, the flip. Let's flip the script. I can eat all of these things, rather I can't eat and I have to restrict, because that's just not fun. Food should be like delicious and liberating and fun and amazing and nourishing. And so it's looking at it that way, through that lens, versus I can't eat because I have kidney disease, I have a heart attack, I have had, all these things. So looking at it a positive way, for sure.
That's awesome. That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So Dr. Angie, tell us, what are some of like your favorite recipes like for the summer that you encourage your patients? Like what kind of things are you like, eat these things during these months?
Yeah. And I suffer from like gut problems. So any type of gut nourishing foods, or as you mentioned, the biodynamic type of nourishing foods, that'd be great. So I'd love to hear from you about that.
Honestly, seasonal fruit is, summer is the season for fruit. So I put it in everything. I put fruit. I just buy so much of it. I freeze it, and I can put it in like my oatmeal, my overnight oats in the morning. You can put it in your smoothies. You can put the beautiful greens that you get from either the farmer's market or a CSA, or even start dabbling into growing your own greens. I just started growing baby kale, and it started coming out in Swiss chard. And it's pretty amazing how easy you can kind of grow weeds, in your garden, and then start putting those in your omelets, and like starting off the day with those nourishing foods and realizing, wow, this came straight from the ground. And when you do that, you get the maximal nutrition from that, because by the time things are shipped to the grocery store, and then they get from the grocery store to your bag, and then you get to the refrigerator, and then you use it, but you've lost so much nutritional value. That's not to say you shouldn't eat them, but you get more bang for your buck if you get it straight from the seasonality of it, the locality of it, and then even obviously if you just grow it from yourself. Yeah. So nourishing foods, hydrating, anything hydrating right now. So instead of telling my patients like, go drink like 8 cups of water, I usually just say like, all right, go get some watermelon for the week. Just get 1 watermelon per week. Get some, cantaloupe, get some cucumbers, tomatoes are in season, put them on literally everything. Those are all hydrating foods. And I think people forget that you can get so much hydration from just your plants in general.
Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah, and so are fruit and things also helpful to, like Laura's question on like gut health? What can we eat to kind of like promote that gut health? And how there's like in Ayurveda, like they kind of like always tell you eat for whatever season you're in. So right now it's like you said, cool and refreshing foods, right?
Hot,
and then in the fall we'll move into like warm and nourishing things. But what are some things that we can eat for our gut that are like, that reflect the season?
Yeah, so when we talk about, I have some patients who tell me the same thing. They're like, but the fruit has a lot of sugar. And I'm like, no. So if we look at plants in general as being nourishing in and of themselves, trying to just eat more plants in general, whether it's fresh fruit, fresh, cucumbers, anything hydrating, jicama, zucchini, like those are all seasonal and great, and they're all hydrating and they are cooling. And I usually don't turn on my stove usually in the summer. I try not to, because again, indoor pollution, heat, it heats up the house. And then who wants to cook in the summer when you're so hot? So I try to make lots of salads. I try to make lots of nourishing bowls. So I'll have my Instapot going with beans and quinoa and things like that. And then I just add lots of fresh veggies to it and a nice avocado dressing or crema. But anything that's rich in probiotics and prebiotics. So your prebiotics are all your fruits, your veggies. And then your probiotics, you can add in things like miso and some fermented tofu, which is tempeh. So I have my patients dabble in some of that, kimchi, sauerkraut, just to give that extra improvement in overall gut health. Things like kombucha for hydration, and also it's kind of a fun twist on a drink.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I didn't realize that tempeh was
Yeah.
fermented. Duh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's one of
love.
my favorite. It's actually one of my favorite proteins to recommend to patients because it is like meat. You know, you crumble it up and you marinate it just like you would with meat, and yeah, it takes on these great flavors, and it's kind of nutty and has so much protein, but it also has fiber and it's also fermented. So
Yeah.
it's great for the climate. So it's great for its sustainability. So I think it's sort of my best favorite protein recently, other than obviously beans, because I love beans.
Yes.
Yeah, loving all your salads. I've saved, bookmarked a few of those on
Oh,
on your
good.
site. So if anyone's watching, be sure to check out her recipes on her feed. It's really really good. I'm like, ooh,
I can't
gonna make.
wait to get back. I was in the office with, talk about culture change. So one of the things that I was doing in my office was actually I started a salad club. So
Cute.
7, 8 years ago, I came with a bag of groceries. I forgot my lunch, and I came with a bag of groceries, and I just had all my salad stuff in there, and because I was too lazy to make it at home. And then I made a huge salad, and I realized I don't think I can eat this whole thing. So I emailed everybody in my office. I'm like, free salad in my office, come get it. So then everyone came in, got a little bit, and they
Yeah.
were like, okay, can we do this again? Like, could this be a thing? And I was like, yeah, sure. So they're like, well, what can I bring? I feel bad. I'm like, always bring an avocado. We'll always throw in an avocado. So
Yes.
someone's in charge
Yeah.
of the avocado, someone's in charge of another fruit or veggie or whatever. And then we would just have a salad club. So for many, many
Love it.
years, we just had a salad club because of that simple laziness of just bringing a grocery bag. And then so once we can get back into the office and we
Mm.
could all communally come together and eat and make a salad, I highly encourage people to do that because it's just such a great way to increase the diversity in your plants that you're eating. Come together. It's better than just like, oh, we're meeting at at the Keurig station getting some coffee or something. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
much more than that. It's intimate.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So, if anyone has any questions for Dr. Angie, make sure you drop them in the comments right now because we're going to be ending soon. We're and anyone that's new joining, we're talking about culinary passion meets food and hospital food policy. So it's lots of great information that Angie's been giving us, and we're going to share this on IGTV so we can continue to listen to this and share it with anyone that you think might resonate with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very inspiring too because I feel like, when you think about hospitals and, sometimes doctors, they help you and they help cure you and they help like all these things, but it's really nice to know that like people like you are getting to the root cause, which is like mostly our diets, mostly our nutrition, it's our eating habits, all these things. And so if we can like instill this, like long term, we'll be going to the hospital less. So
Yeah, it's
it's
sort
really
of
nice. Yeah.
it's a change and shift. It's like you come to the doctor and you come wanting like a quick fix or a quick pill, and a lot of times that there is a place for that. There's definitely a place. That I mean, we culinary medicine is not about just prescribing foods and recipes, and yes, that's
Mhm.
part fun, but that's like foundational. Then if you need a medication, of course there's a role, and it plays a huge role in some of my patients. So it's not one or the other, and that's what it's using both things to really, really optimize someone's health. And in some cases, after that, taking you off medications so that that foundation already is set and that moves you forward. But I think a lot of people have this misconception that it's all one or nothing. Like, if I just change my diet, then everything will get better.
Mm.
But then you're not sleeping well. You're also, not, exercising, and you look very tired. It's like, no, no, no. We need to really, it's all of it together. It's not just one way to do it.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
really a lifestyle shift.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for all the work you do and all that you give back to the community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What questions do you guys have? How did you guys get into this space?
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Laura.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Liz and I, the Conscious Kitchen basically is like about heart-to-heart conversations in your kitchen. And it's the heart of the home is in the kitchen. Like even all the parties, the family parties you have, everyone's always congregating in the kitchen. So
Mhm.
Liz and I were roommates basically for the past like 3 years while I was living in Los Angeles. And her husband at the time was like, you guys are always talking about conscious subjects, like whether it be politics, sexuality, religion, like everything. We'd be sitting in our kitchen for hours and hours and hours and talking. So the name is interesting because people think we really are like a nutrition, like podcast always talking about food and recipes, but we're really talking about having like really conscious discussions that our generation needs to have.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of people mainly congregate in a kitchen when you're going out to places. When you're going to go to someone's house, you congregate in the kitchen, right? Everybody, that's where you have your intimate moments. Tell me about your ups and downs, your fears, your dreams, your hopes in life, all of that. So that's the kind of community that I try to bring when we try to do teaching classes that I do through the California Schools Viva. And it's with the employees and the teachers and educators of California, and trying to recognize that it is about that. It is much beyond food. It is not just about food. It's so much more.
And so can anyone, is it possible that anyone can be your patient or like your client, or is it like you're only in that one, are you in that one like network?
Yeah, technically I'm not. I mean, I'm not doing, I'm in private practice, but in San Diego. And so if patients are in San Diego, then yes, they can look me up and see if their insurance is, if we take their insurance. But yeah, I don't do any other like private one-on-one sessions or anything like that.
Okay, yeah. So
but I always encourage people, if they have like a quick question, they want evidence-based information, or they want more information, I can usually guide people in that way. So
awesome.
Always reach out to me. I have so many people who've been following me and they're like, what can I substitute for this? Or can you tell me a little bit more about this? And I've usually written a post and I just literally like just connect them to where they want. But I'm always open to answering people's questions on food, nutrition, wellness, anything, how to advocate for themselves at a doctor's office, you know.
Yes, such an important topic. Yes. So everyone definitely go over and check out Angie. If you hit that little box up at the top, it'll give you all of our Instagram. So Laura, Flavors for Wellness, who's Dr. Angie Neison, based out of San Diego. And you'll get a lot of resources from our Instagram posts, like a little recipe she posts sometimes, and just kind of sharing that wealth of amazing knowledge from a medical perspective, which is super unique. So thank you for that free service that you do for the community, because it's really, I'm sure it's, you know, it's not like you have an endless amount of time, but you're still
honestly, it started off as one of my patients asking me. They always ask me, like, because I have 2 little boys at home, and they're like, what are you cooking for your kids? I know you're a busy doctor and you're married to another doctor. How are you able to make? So it started off with, well, I could take pictures of what I make. And then I was like, yeah, I could post the recipe. Yeah, I could do more. So honestly, it's my messaging outside the office that I want my patients to continue to have. And that's another way to sort of connect with them. So it started off for my patients, but obviously anybody joins Instagram. So
yes,
share it with your family. Again, food is connecting. So share it with your loved ones, your friends, your families. I'm all for it. I'm here to educate.
Oh, so awesome.
So awesome. Thank you guys so much. And be sure to check us out on the Conscious Kitchen podcast. We're streaming worldwide on Spotify, Apple, and make sure that you hit the subscribe button, because we love to drop a podcast every other Tuesday. And we always have really great episodes with really amazing people like you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we're the Conscious Kitchen podcast. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're cooking up conscious conversation. We're going to be back here next week talking to Casey Dworkin, who is she has a vegan leather shoe brand, but she used to make leather. So we're going to talk to her about the transition to apple leather, which is super exciting that she's using. So we're going to be there. We'll do that next week. And we have an episode with Lizzie Jeff, which we just released last Tuesday. So please, everybody, go check that out. Thank you, Dr. Angie, for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Angie.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Really great recipes.
All right. Take care. Thank you guys so much.
Have an amazing day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.